last pack. Strings, 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 and more strings. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dulcimerica. Thanks for joining me. It's been a very, very busy week. Next week, I will be leaving on summer tour, and today starts QDF Summerfest. So I've been preparing for that. So instead of my usual Dulcimerica episode, I figured I would share with you something I've been doing monthly for about a year and a half now through my Patreon page. I've been doing free workshops. That means anybody can join these workshops every single month. And we do 4 workshops. One is called the Ionian Institute, which is all for beginners, novices, and people who have been away from the mountain dulcimer for a little while. Then there's Mountain Dulcimer in the Jam, which is where we learn 4 tunes and then play them with backing tracks, always a good time. Then we have Loop U, which shows you how to use a looper pedal, and not only for performance, but also for study, for practice, and just for messing around. And then finally there's On the Record, which shows you how to create your own recordings and share them with whoever you like. So here is a snippet from each of those workshops that came along recently, and once again they are available for absolutely free. On the first of every month I post the schedule with the Zoom meeting links, and you can come along and join and participate, learn some stuff, and have a good time. You can go to patreon.com/BingFutch and be a free member of the community, check out these workshops, and then, if you like that, there's $5 a month, get you all access to everything I've ever done online, all my books, all my CDs, all my videos, and literally terabytes of information that'll help you to become the player you want to be on mountain dulcimer, ukulele, Native American flute, or the songwriter you want to be, or the recording engineer, whatever it might be that you want to aspire to. I've been helping lots of people, and hopefully I can help you too. So here are those snippets. Thanks for joining me this week, and I might just see you at QDF. There's still time to join. Lots of cool concerts, lots of workshops. The registrations for that is closed, but the concerts are still around. We'll see you soon.
Well, welcome everybody to the Ionian Institute. Thank you very much for joining me for our continuing look at the mountain dulcimer in its fundamental form. This could be for beginners, and it could be for those of you who maybe have been away from the instrument for a little bit and want to come on back and revisit it and begin your explorations anew. So once again, thank you very much for joining me. For those of you who have been following along over the past year, we have done quite a lot. We've covered a lot of the basics here, but part of what I like to do is to recap, go back over some of the things we did recently, keep those things in practice so we don't forget them. We worked so hard on getting them under our fingers, so it's a good idea to keep coming back, work on them, reinforce them, and then continue to add some things. So last month, not too long ago actually, we worked on Home on the Range, and we did some exercises to get us filling in some strums. Well, we're going to do that again today, but we're going to take it to a different level and use a great old fiddle tune called Old Joe Clark that many of you might know. Same things will apply as far as how we put those fill-in pickings and strummings in there, but it's a different feel, it's a different type of piece, and so this is going to be nice to add on to what we've already done. So we're going to break down the piece like we've done every other piece and look at all the components, look at our navigation and everything that we need to know in order to have great success when we're playing the tune. Starting off with our tuning, which is D-A-D. Up here we have 2 sharps that are on the staff. Those 2 pound signs represent F sharp and C sharp. So we're in the key of D major. Whenever you see 2 of those pound signs, that puts us in the key of D major. Next we have 4/4 time. That top number is how many beats are in the measure, and the bottom number is the note duration that we use to count those beats. So 4 stands for the quarter note on the bottom. Top note is 4 beats in the measure. So the quarter note, 4 quarter notes to a measure, is how we make our way through the piece. The next step is to look at navigation, and you can see that we've got some repeat symbols. It's a double bar or a thickened bar that has 2 dots at the beginning of the measure. That means we're going to be looking at those same dots or looking for those same dots at the end of a measure, and we can find them here in measure number 8. Pretty standard for these fiddle tunes to go 4 or 8 measures or sometimes 16 bars. So everything in between them gets repeated one time. And that's pretty standard, just to repeat one time. Sometimes you'll see this with another little note that says X and a 3 or a 2. And that means to repeat it that many times. Repeat it twice, repeat it 3 times, repeat it 4 times, just to save page turns, that type of thing. But if you don't see a number or an X, and you just see these repeat symbols, that means we're just going to repeat everything in between them one time. So we're going to play measures 1 through 8, and then go back to measure 1 to measure 8. And then we're done with the repeats. We can move on to measure number 9. You'll also notice that we've got, or that I've got up here, an A section marker. It's typical for many of our fiddle tunes to be divided up into A part, B part, usually. But there are some fiddle tunes that have more parts than that, C, D, E, F. Black Mountain Rag has got 3 parts, A, B, and C. But typically you're going to find just an A part and a B part. So we've got the A section that we would play twice. So we would call that 2 A's, 2 times through the A part. And then down here you can see we've got B. And let's see what's going on with our B section. You can see that we do have repeat symbols down there at measure 9, at the beginning of measure 9, and we do have repeat symbols at the end of measure 16. So we're going to do the exact same thing, basically. We're going to play from 9 to 16, and then go back to 9 and repeat the B section. So 2 A's and 2 B's is how you'll hear that mentioned in the jam. And it is always, always perfectly fine. If you're not familiar with how a song flows, someone calls a tune in the jam, you don't know exactly how it's going to go, ask them and maybe suggest, hey, is this 2 A's and 2 B's? And they may say, yes, it is. Or, in the case of some songs, they may say, no, it's actually 2 A's and 1 B, because certain songs have a little crooked way of doing that. The Old Black Cat Couldn't Catch a Rat from Yancey County, North Carolina, does 2 A's and 1 B, is the one that just off the top of my head came singing in there. All right, so we looked at our navigation. We know our key signature, our time signature, what the sections are, and what tuning we're in. So what's left? What's left is to actually take a look at the notes themselves and just get an idea of how the whole thing moves. We are up at the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and officially welcome you to Mountain Dulcimer in the Jam. Thank you all very much for joining me for another session. Here we take 4 songs, we work through them, and then we play them with backing tracks, which is always a lot of fun. So sometimes you can come in knowing the tunes, and then sometimes you might not know them, and you'll just be kind of going along and fending for yourself as you go. Now, typically in a jam, you're not going to have the music right in front of you, but there's a lot of different things you can do while you're in the jam to have some fun. You can play the chords, move chords around, you can play counter melody, you can audition different things on your instrument, even if you don't know the tune. And if you're like me, sometimes it takes a while to learn these tunes. You got to hear them like 4, 5, 6 times, and just when you're learning it and you got it, someone says foot or puts their foot up, and then it ends and you don't have it. So in the meantime, you can certainly play around and have some fun. And the entire Mountain Dulcimer in the Band series is about learning how to play along with an ensemble where they're all doing different stuff. They're not necessarily playing the melodies and stuff like that. And so this is to keep you from getting distracted and getting you used to the idea of playing in a group where everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and that's a lot of fun. So our 4 tunes for tonight are Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe, Squirrel Heads and Gravy, Rock the Cradle Joe, and an original tune that I wrote some time ago called The West Lafayette Reel. We won't go in that order. We're going to start off with Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe, because it's a pretty easy tune and it's a lot of fun to mess around on. So let me go ahead and take us to Book 7 And let's see what page that is on. Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe is page 16. So I'm going to go ahead and get us over there. And we'll take a look and see what is expected of us in this tune. Let me go ahead and clear the sound conduit. Where am I? I'm over here now. And what am I looking for? Right over here. All right. And then that's on the screen. Good, good, good. All right. Let me come on back over to the minicam side and get out my trusty red pen to point out a few things. Let me test that pen. Okay, that's good. It's working. But it always leaves that little dot there. I can't figure out what that's all about. So let me just get the eraser and get rid of it. Okay, come on back to our pen. All right, so this is Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we always do in these sessions. We're going to look at all the different things that are required of us to know when we're playing the tune. Let me go ahead and play Down the River I Go one time through the A part and the B part. And watch, I'm going to put those little fill-in notes right in. You do this little split. B part with the harmony. Same kind of split. Such a fun little tune. It's just it's a driller, one you want to play all night long. So the next step here is for us to listen to the backing track and get an idea of how it's all going to sound. And so let me go ahead and pull up Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe demo, and let's have a listen. That bass. We're kind of cooking here. And as you can see, there's no gap in between. We just go right back into the tune. Now, in terms of the ending, a lot of these endings are going to be 4-bar endings, and they're going to use what's called a pedal technique. That means that we're going to hang on that last chord, and we're just going to hold that chord for the duration. So actually, we're going to hold on to a D major and ride that out for 4 beats. Some of these or 4 measures. Some of these may be 2 measures. And I purposely don't go back and research the endings because sometimes we don't have any idea how these songs are going to end in the jam. So it's good to be prepared for anything and be ready. So make sure you're listening nice and careful. Let me go ahead and pull up the backing track to give you an idea of what we're listening for now with my part removed. And of course, I will not have my volume up on the dulcimer while we're playing so that you can do what you like. And then also, when you watch the video later on, you can play the lead, or you can play chops, or you can just move chords, or make arpeggios, or do counter melody, or play an entirely different song that has the same chords. It's all part of the fun. Let's listen to how this sounds with just the backing band. Listen for the count in. So you know what to listen for. That bass doesn't change. The backing chords don't change a whole bunch during the A part when we come into it and the very last time through. It gets a little bit more colorful and a little more busy towards the middle parts. And we are going through 6 times. So here we are. Get ready. Let me turn my volume down. You'll hear me a little bit through my microphone. But largely, it's all about you. Here we go. This is Down the River I Go, Uncle Joe. Well, welcome everybody to Loop U. Thank you very much for joining me for another session. We are going to have a really amazing session today with all kinds of technical details. We're going to be doing some tunes and having some fun harmonizing with ourselves on 2 very, very simple pieces of music. And we'll do a recap as well for those of you getting used to using a looper pedal. These are cool little gadgets, and a lot of people are discovering that they're not just good for performing, they're also good for practicing. They're also good for coming up with ideas. They're good for doing scales and just throwing things at that tapestry and seeing what works and what doesn't. It's a learning instrument as well, or a learning device as well. And so we'll help you figure out your individual pedal. Today, I am once again using the RC30, which is no longer made by Boss, but it is a flagship looper, been around for a very long time. I love it because it's one of the more simple pedals out there. But I've been largely leaning towards, in my performances, using the RC500 and also the RC10R. And we will be talking about the RC10R today because one of you out there has got one hooked up. And not only that, but also an octave pedal, which is a lot of fun to bring that bass element in. So we'll be talking about all this stuff today in an action-packed episode. Thanks for joining me again. Let's start off with just a real basic recap. I'm going to clear out the forum here and take us down into the RC30. And if you can find this online somewhere, if you're collecting looper pedals, all of them have their little, features that we love a lot. And this one doesn't have a lot of deep diving menu. It's got the basic display. Everything you need is really on the front panel. You don't have to go dialing and searching through menus to do all of your operations. And I think that makes it very, very easy. It's got a very, very basic rhythm component built into it. And I actually like to use that just to kind of keep me honest. And I'm going to dial in just a hi-hat here. So if you've got a 2-pedal looper, then your right pedal primarily is going to be stop. It's also going to be setting the tempo if you've got this little thing in here. So if I hit 2, boom, boom, it measures the distance, or it measures the tempo between the 2 clicks on that right pedal. So you don't have to keep hitting it, but if you are in your head hearing the tempo you want to be at, you can just hit it and gradually slow down the taps or speed up the taps. And it automatically is there. And you can hear your tempo before you actually start creating your loop. That's one of the things I really, really love about the RC30. So once you get your tempo set up, it's your left pedal that starts the loop. And then it's your left pedal that once again sets the loop. and then you either go into playback mode or overdub mode. Overdub meaning you're going to be recording extra stuff on top of your loop, and playback is it's just going to play back what you looped, and you can solo over it or do other things without it being recorded. Helpful if you just want to lay down a very basic chord progression and just want to have some fun. If you have a single pedal, then those operations are all going to be in just the one pedal. That one pedal is going to be how you start your loop, how you set your loop, and go into overdub and play mode. It's also going to be a stop, and typically it's going to be 2 presses on the pedal to get that to stop. And sometimes that can be a challenge if you're working on a tune and getting yourself used to hitting that in tempo. You don't have to do it in tempo, but it helps. So let's go ahead and do a basic thing here. I'm going to set a loop of a very basic 1-4-5 chord progression. We're going to go D, G, A, and I'm going to leave it at A, and we'll talk about that for a second. So we've got that louder click that you hear. You also see that the light, which is primarily green, goes red on the downbeat, so we can get that set properly. And I'm going to set my loop. 1, 2, 3, 4. And set. I got the red light and the green line on together. I'm on overdub mode right now, but I want to be in playback mode, so I'm going to hit that left pedal again. That takes me out of overdub mode, and now I'm just in playback mode. We have our loop. So now I'm going to go ahead and enter overdub mode again, and I'm going to solo over the top of this. And if I don't like this, I can undo it. This works on 2 pedal loopers and 1 pedal loopers. Just long press on the left pedal or your 1 pedal. Long press to undo. Here we go. And it's gone. So you could get rid of it if you didn't like it, or you can get rid of it so that you can bring it back in to show the difference between a verse and a chorus, or bringing in a part that you don't want there to be all the time. Same thing for the redo, long press. I'm going to get rid of it again, long press. Every machine acts a little bit differently in terms of how long it takes for that undo or redo to take place. Some of them it's a specific number of beats or seconds. This one is actually 2 seconds. So if I want it to be like there at the right time, I have to time it so that it's 2 seconds before I want the change to happen. Other ones kind of react based on how much information it's undoing or redoing, which can be kind of a pain in the butt. So you have to learn how your own looper is going to handle that. Now we're going to stack, and I'm going to show you what happens to what we call our base layer. The base layer is something that you can't undo. And right now, that's this chord progression. That's the base layer. Now I can contribute to the base layer by going into overdub mode and then getting out of overdub mode, and I commit that layer. If I want to undo that layer, it needs to be the last thing I did. But if I do something else and record something else, it's going to get committed to the base layer. So let me go ahead and throw a little something in here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm out of overdub mode. I'm in playback mode now. Now I could still undo this right now. Long press. And it's gone. Now I'm going to bring it back in. Now I'm going to record something else. As soon as I hit that record button and go into overdub mode, I'm committing this to the bass layer. Not what I'm recording, what's already been recorded. I'm going to long press to undo what I just did. So you notice only the solo part went away and those chords are still there. They are now committed to the bass layer. There's no way to undo them. If I long press again, it'll bring back the solo part. Now if I record something else, I'll go to undo that, and the last lead is still present. No way to undo it at that point. If I long press, it brings back that last little annoying bit I just brought in. I'm going to go out with a D chord here. And that is our covering move right there. And all of that stuff would have just ended on a dime, and if you weren't playing, it would sound like this. I'm going to restart. 2, 3, and that's not attractive. Now you can set the RC30 to fade that out towards the end, and that's kind of cool, but I've got mine set for a straight hard stop, and it sounds very artificial. Even if before it was starting to sound kind of lovely and like an ensemble, that no one stops like that, and orchestras don't do that. So you use a covering move. A covering move is when you hit your dulcimer again, and even if you aren't playing as many layers as what's going on there, one good solid strum at the same time that you actually hit stop will clean that up for you. I'll do that here again. Now it's a little less obvious that everything just came to a brutal brick wall halt, and you've got the natural sustain of the dulcimer that carries you out. That's kind of a trick to make your live performances with a looper pedal, or even your recordings with a looper pedal, a little bit more natural and a lot less sudden. Well, welcome everybody to On the Record. This is our first session, and I'm really super excited to be sharing this with you. I know a lot of people really would like to record their own music, no matter what instrument you're playing. And we have all of the tech that we need right at our fingertips. It's never been easier to do this sort of thing. So thank you for joining me. Today is going to be super simple. I'm just going to record a dulcimer part. I'm going to walk you through the steps of setting up the microphones, recording the dulcimer, a couple of different ways of doing that, and then we'll put it into the digital audio workstation, or DAW, and just make it sound pretty and good, and then print it basically. We'll mix it down and we'll have a WAV file. A lot of people think that this is really difficult stuff, and on a very, very basic level, it's super, super easy. So we're going to start off without any real deep explanations about what's going on other than the obvious. And if you have any questions, please send them over to the chat. I'll answer them. But I do have an outline that I will be posting on Patreon later on that'll help you go through. It's got a bit more detail. And then every month that we join up together and do this, I will add a bit more detail, because if I come at you with too much right now, it might be a little overwhelming. So we're going to keep it super, super simple. Speaking of super simple, I've been doing this since 1985 when this little beastie first came out. And I'll never forget, I was working at Knott's Berry Farm Theme Park in Southern California, and I was really wanting to get into doing my own recording. I had just done my first album, first album. And this thing came on the market. This is a Fostex X15 4-track recorder. And this 4-track recorder uses cassette tapes just like you used to buy, to get your Van Halen on and your Lita Ford and whatever it might be. And you would basically take, you could flip those cassettes over, one side and two side. Well, a cassette tape running 4 tracks, think about 2 tracks of stereo on side 1, 2 tracks of stereo on side 2. So if you didn't use side 2, you had 4 tracks that you could use, and you could put an instrument on each one of those tracks. So I got my start working with a 4-track machine, and these days we're not limited by the number of tracks we can use and the number of things that we can do. It's really amazing. But thankfully, if you're just going to be taking a mountain dulcimer or an ukulele in your voice and putting them on a recording, you really only need 2 tracks. So we'll look at the equipment that we need to pull all this stuff together as well. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump into it. And let's take a look at some of the things that you're going to need in order to do this. And I put that also in the post on Patreon. Let me go ahead and switch over to our second camera. And we're going to start off with the dulcimer itself. So here we go. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the pickup. So if your instrument has a pickup, you've got a jack that will allow you to plug an instrument cable into, and that's going to allow you to plug directly into your audio interface, which I'll show you in a second. Now, if you don't have that, no worries. You can just record using a microphone, and I'm going to show you a number of different microphones that we can use to pick up the sound of your instrument. Now, here's the fun part. If you have the pickup and you want to get a really solid sound, you can record 2 tracks. You can record the direct, and then you can also record the microphone and blend them together to get a really nice sound. So that's the first step. You have an instrument with a pickup, or if you don't have a pickup, you're just going to use microphones, and we will show you some different types of microphones here in a second. Next is going to be the audio interface. Let me go ahead and switch back over to main, because I can pick up a couple of these and show them to you. Actually, let me show you this. This is the one I just picked up, and I'm going to be using this on the road this summer. This is a Neva Duo audio interface, and this is how you get the sound from your instrument into your computer. Basically, you've got 2 inputs there. And these jacks are really cool. They're called combo jacks. Look, I'm making a face. These are combo jacks, meaning they accept instrument cables and microphone cables as well. And most jacks, most of these types of audio interfaces and gear are coming out with these combo jacks. Otherwise, they're one or the other. So it's nice to have that. You can plug in 2 microphones, or you can plug in 2 instrument cables and use them at the same time. And most of your digital audio workstations are going to allow you to record simultaneous tracks, from 2 tracks up to however many you've got, from 8 to 16 to 64 tracks to, yes, 128 tracks. Those are really big boards, but we don't need all that. We need a couple of tracks at the most. That's your audio interface. You would plug your instrument, if you have a pickup, into this, and then this connects via USB and goes into your computer, and that's the connection. That's all you need right there in terms of starting to record your music. And there are a number of different audio interfaces. Let me show you another one here that's really cool. And this is an older model, but if you don't want to worry about too much and then have to buy separate things like, there it is. Buy separate things like other microphones, you can get something like this Zoom unit. So this is the Zoom. This is old, man. This is the Zoom H4n Pro. And what it is it's an audio interface, but it's also a 4-track recorder, a digital 4-track recorder that's got microphones built into it. Man, this is so awesome for field recording. So what you do is, if you're just going to use it for recording, it's got stereo mic placement built right into it. Those are microphones right on the top. You point that in your instrument, you get stereo sound. You can then take that and connect it to your computer via USB, move the WAV file off of it and put it right into your DAW. Super, super easy. But you can also use this as the recording device and as an audio interface. Switch it to that mode, and then you can play directly into it, and then this will connect you to your digital audio workstation. I'm gonna call that DAW from now on because it's such a long phrase. Anyway, Zoom still makes these, and they have a lot more high-powered abilities on them. So if you're looking for an audio interface and also something just to record your music while you're out and about somewhere, this is a great all-in-one package. I'm going to show you one more I've got here, and this is the one that I use at home. And it is going to be overkill for most of you, but for some of you, it might be where you want to go. We're going to switch this over to the second camera, and this is the M-Audio M-Track 8. It's got 8 inputs, so I can record 8 tracks simultaneously. And why would I want to do that? Well, if I'm recording an ensemble with multiple microphones, or if I'm recording a band, I'll need to have at least 5 or 6 inputs for the drums alone. So it's bigger boards like this that help us do bigger jobs. But honestly, I haven't done a lot of work like that in the past. This is a super, super old unit, but I love it. And so you can get 2, 4, 6, 8 tracks, however many you need. And this is a hardware audio interface that also serves as a mixer. Really, really fun stuff there. So that is your audio interface. That's how you get your music from an instrument that has a pickup. We plug that directly into the audio interface, and that gives us the ability to record with the DAW. And that brings us to the DAW. Let's go ahead and take a look at this interface. This is one of the ones that I use. This is Logic Pro. Now, if you're a Mac user out there, you probably know about GarageBand already. GarageBand is bundled free with Mac computers, and it is a very, very powerful DAW, and that's what I started on. And then it's basically training wheels for Logic Pro. So when you're ready to go, it's really cool because you graduate from GarageBand to Logic Pro, and you end up with an interface that looks exactly the same, operates exactly the same. So it's like it eases you into the experience. And once we start getting in here and recording, I'll explain more about what everything is. But this is what it looks like, basically. These are individual tracks, and that's where we're going to be putting our information, our recording. All right. Now that we've taken a look at the basics, there's all kinds of bells and whistles that we can play with, but that is the basic stuff that you need in order to record. Now let's talk about microphones, since we're going to be using that if you do not have a pickup. There are a couple of different microphones that you can get, and the most basic and common of those is a dynamic microphone. You've seen these. These are just the basic microphones that you see on stage all the time, and you see when people sing into them, or if they use them to record instruments, they're very close. They're very, very close in proximity to what you're doing. So these dynamic microphones often look like ice cream cones, or like shotguns. They're very, very long. This is a Shure SM57. I'll include some of these gear specs in the sheet that I hand out later, virtually hand out. The Shure SM57 is a workhorse. It's a very, very strong, awesome mic. You can drop it, break it, dip it in beer. It'll never fail on you. You can get them for about 99 bucks. Not expensive either. So it's a dynamic microphone, and basically it's only going to record what you point it at. So it's got what's called a throw, and it's a pattern, and it's like a net. It captures the sound within the shape of this pattern. And the pattern on this one is very narrow. So if you point it at, say, a voice and you're talking into it, you want to be right on that microphone. Notice that every time I move, I've got it centered on me. Because if I go off to the side, like this, or like this, you're not going to hear a whole bunch, because this is meant to be very specific and pointed at an instrument exactly where you want that sound, pointed at a voice exactly where you want that sound. And this is great if you want to record something in a noisy environment. If there's noise over here and noise over here, you want a dynamic microphone. It'll filter that stuff out and only capture really what you want. So that is an SM57. These are great for instruments and these are great for vocals, but better for instrument and vocals is an SM58A beta. And this is also a workhorse of the industry. Now the ball isn't just for looks. It actually is a wider pattern. So whereas we had this very, very narrow one for the SM57, the SM58 is a little bit wider. So you don't have to be as on the mic. You can work from one side or the other. And of course, neither of these are going to allow you to hear sound from behind. So if you had them pointing away from you, you could be back here and go la la la, and a lot of it is not going to end up on these. So again, these are great for working where you want to be very, very direct, very, very sure of your placement, and you don't want a lot of area noise. And again, you can get this for about $99, $129. Be very careful about buying this stuff used because you just don't know how the former owner treated them. You can't see the electronics. You don't know what's going on inside. These are two I would recommend you getting for recording your dulcimer and your voice at home. You just can't fail with these two. And they're not expensive. Now, if you have a little bit more money to spend, this is one of the greatest dynamic microphones ever created. This is the Electro Voice RE20, and it's what a lot of broadcasters use, and it is phenomenal. And it's got a little bit of extra voodoo that you can do, like you can cut out the lows if you're recording in a very noisy area, if there's a lot of trucks going by. You can flip a switch here that's a low cut, and that'll take away the ability of those trucks to ruin your take. It's really cool stuff. The coolest thing is that it's known for its proximity effect. Proximity effect is how things get take on a different tone and get obviously louder, but also richer and deeper as you get closer to the microphone. And this one has one of the best proximity effects. If you want to get that in a world kind of voice going on, the RE20 is your instrument there. Great, great microphone. Those are dynamic microphones. And I would imagine for most part, that's what you're going to use. I'm going to introduce you to one more type of microphone, and then I'm going to make sure that Pirate Jenny says cassette tapes. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. Those of us who have cassette tapes know what it's all about. Dynamic microphones are what you're probably going to want to use, especially if you're living somewhere where it's kind of noisy. But if you have the blessing of a quiet space, then you might want to start getting into condenser microphones. Here are a couple of different types. This is a shotgun condenser microphone. And what is a condenser microphone? It's an area microphone. You've probably seen lots of footage of a bluegrass band at the Grand Ole Opry, and they're all standing semicircle around one old-fashioned old microphone with all kinds of stuff on it. And you think there's no way that all of those guys are being picked up by that one microphone. It's like just for show, right? The answer is no, actually they are all being picked up by this condenser microphone, or in some cases a ribbon microphone back in the old days. And so anything around it, 180 degrees on either side, you're going to pick up the sound. And if the soloist wants to be heard clearly, they'll step closer to the microphone and then they'll step back. And so you've seen that behavior a lot. That's a condenser microphone. Picks up everything, anything in the area. That's your instrument. That's the room. That's the people singing in the room. That's the cars driving by. That's the freeway. That's the airport. That's everything. So if you live somewhere noisy, you're going to hear it all if you use a condenser microphone. And that's why you might want to use a dynamic. But if you're someplace where it's peaceful and quiet, a condenser is going to give you the best sound because it's going to capture everything. And it's going to sound more natural and richer and warmer and nicer. This is a Studio Projects B1. When I bought this, it was about $100. They're going for about $200 now. People are discovering this is a nice low-cost condenser microphone. And it also has some of the same attenuation on the back where you can change. So if I've got a fire station, a block that way, which I do, and I know there's going to be trucks rumbling back from a false alarm or something, I turn this and I cut that low so I don't pick up the sounds of the trucks going by. This other one I've got here is a shotgun condenser. So it's kind of like a dynamic in that it wants to really pick up what you're pointing it at. So it's a thinner pattern, but it's still going to pick up a lot within that pattern. And this is an Audio-Technica ATM33A. I tend to use a pair of these for stereo recording. I don't remember how much these were, but they weren't cheap either. If you want a cheap, inexpensive condenser microphone, I would go with the Studio Projects B1. Let me go ahead and grab the mobile camera and show you my lovely here. This is the condenser microphone that a lot of people, if you go and do the Quarantine Festival, you'll see people with this one. This is the Rode NT1, and it is fabulous. Just a great, great microphone, great sound. They're pricey. And last time I checked, they were like between $300, $400. But you're paying for fabulous quality. Not all microphones are made the same, and not all of them have the same features. But this is a fabulous one. You're seeing it in a shock mount because it's so sensitive that if you put it in a normal mount and people walk across the floor, it'll transfer the sound into the microphone. So the shock mount isolates the microphone and keeps it from getting bumped or things like that. And this is a pop screen, so if you got a singer in front of that and they're popping their P's or whatever else, it doesn't hit the microphone. Makes a big poof, like that, but worse because it's a condenser. So we talked about the microphones. We talked about all the gear that we need. Let's go ahead and talk about connecting all of this stuff together and just go through the process of doing that right now.
And there you have it, a sneak peek at just some of those 4 workshops that happen every single month. And I do post those schedules on the first of every month at patreon.com/bingfutch. Come along and join us. I think you'll have a good time and you'll learn some really cool stuff about all different types of instruments and music. So I gotta go. It's time for some QDF, and then I gotta hit the road. Hopefully I'll see you out there. You can find my schedule at bingfutch.com. Thanks, everybody. That's an ukulele on Dulcimerica. Can you do that?